Where it has been mutually agreed by Gary Andersen that he will step down from his position as a head football coach at Oregon State. I want to thank Gary for the many contributions to the student athletes, OSU athletics, and this great university. Our football program has advanced in many ways during Gary's tenure, including our facilities and academic performance of our football student athletes. Indeed, this program has positioned for success both on and off the field, thanks to Gary's great efforts. Coach Andersen's decision to waive the remaining compensation is unprecedented and is made for all of the right reasons and values, and it speaks volumes about the kind of honorable person Gary is. This is a difficult time for me personally and professionally. I've known Gary for many years and respect him highly as a person, as a friend, a head coach, and an incredible leader of young men. The timing is very difficult, but as he and I have discussed, it is best for all involved. With a clear path forward, we will begin a national search to appoint a new head football coach. We'll utilize a search firm to identify and review candidates, but ultimately the decision will be made by President Ray and myself. In the interim, I have appointed Beaver assistant coach Corey Hall to lead this program. Previous stops for Corey include Wisconsin, Washington State, Weber State, and he comes to us as a 6-year NFL veteran, having played both at Atlanta and Cincinnati. I believe strongly that Corey will bring the leadership needed to move this program forward for the remainder of the season. And with that, I'd like to introduce Corey Hall.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to first start by saying that I'm humbled that Scott Barnes presented me with the opportunity to move this team forward in an interim basis. I can assure Beaver Nation that I will do everything in my power to move these young men forward in a positive manner. My first order of business will be getting back on the field and preparing for our game against Colorado this Saturday. So I want to thank Coach Andersen. I want to thank the support staff. I want to thank the players, and I want to thank the great state of Oregon for this opportunity. Now, you're going to get my best, and that's what the kids deserve, because at the end of the day, it's all about them. That's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do. That's why we all do. So with that being said, again, I'm very humbled, and I feel very blessed.
Question. Lindsay?
Scott, who initiated the conversation, you or Gary, about him leaving?
This, as we said, this was a mutual agreement, and it evolved, and we've had conversations for a period of time about a number of things, and so that conversation evolved.
Dan?
Scott, did Gary call for another meeting with you this weekend, and what were your conversations like after the USC game?
Yeah, we've been meeting regularly. We've had preset meetings once a week and in between, and a lot of conversations over the last bit. So again, I'd say that this was something that evolved between both of us as we continue to talk.
Scott, you mentioned the difficulty of the timing. Why did you and Gary believe that in the middle of the season this was the right decision for the team moving forward?
Yes, so believe that it's a reset for this football program. When the time comes that you don't want to continue moving forward, and that was Gary's state that we decided then sooner better, and it gives us a chance to move forward in the process. And so difficult time, but yet we'll look at this as a reset for the program and a chance to move forward under Corey's leadership.
Corey, what's the most important thing right now, right here? What's the most important thing right now, the very first thing for your transition to take over?
The most important thing right now are the players. You know, that we all stick together, and again, you know, we have our eyes set on the target. You know, we have a game versus Colorado this Saturday that, I mean, you know, obviously it's a worthy opponent and that we have to prepare for. But, I mean, amidst of all of this, we still have to regroup and we have to focus, and we can't lose sight of that. But I think it's going to be my job to kind of keep everybody together, again, with a tremendous support staff.
You've got a short period of time, Corey, and this is a major distraction. How do you get the focus? What do you tell the players to get them? You know, it's all about the Buffaloes this week. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, it's coming from the side of a player. You know, I'm saying I'm a player for the players. And I've gone through a transition like this before. But that doesn't stop the opponent. I mean, that still is at hand. That's the task. And so it's going to be my job to keep them focused. And I have the energy, right? I'm energetic enough to keep those boys focused. And we're going to go out, we're going to celebrate Coach Andersen, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to compete.
Scott, it was less than 2 weeks ago that you said you had the right leader in place in Gary. Now it's a mid-season reset. What changed over the course of the past less than 2 weeks?
Yeah. Again, what changed is continuing conversation. The conversation evolved to the point we sit today.
Coach Hall, do you anticipate any other potential coaching shifts, or is everything kind of staying in place in terms of, like, you know, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, so on and so forth?
Haven't got to that point yet, but I'm sure further on in the week, I mean, we're going to meet as a staff, and I don't think right now it's a good time for that at this moment. So, but we'll talk about it.
Scott, the kind of money that was left on the table, as you mentioned, pretty unprecedented. What led into that decision? What was the conversation like? And were you surprised that that money was going to be left on the table?
You know, again, as the conversation evolved, no, and that's just who Gary is. It's a statement of who the man is and his integrity and the honor in which he conducts his business. And at the end of the day, he felt that was an important piece to this, and obviously it creates a clear path. And when you think about what we have to look forward to, Corey's leadership finishing very, very strong, and then the next step, this is an unbelievable opportunity for the next head coach.
To follow up on that, Scott, so you're saying there was nothing else going on, there was no situation where you were going to have a reason to fire him for cause?
No.
Okay. My second question was, when were the players informed, and did Gary tell them, or did you deliver them?
Yeah, appreciate the question. So we actually spoke with them today. We met with the assistant coaches at 11:15. We met with the student athletes at 11:30. I followed Gary. Gary spoke to the assistants. Then I spoke to the assistants. Then Gary spoke to the student athletes, and I spoke with the student athletes, and then we introduced Corey.
Scott, when did Gary first express to you that stepping away at this time might be best?
It's evolved, but yesterday is when we got to the point where we obviously made the final decision.
Scott, when you met with the student athletes and Gary was there, what was some of the player reactions once they got the news?
You know, like any change, and I won't diminish this, it's an emotional time for student athletes. It just is. Particularly the surprise that it was. They all gave him a big bear hug, and you know, this time, and what's so important for us now, not only as a football staff but as an athletic program, is to put our arms around those student athletes, get them redirected. We have a very short window before they've got to get back on the field. We want to make sure their minds are right, and we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure they're in a good position.
Scott, you know, as Gary leaves that money on the table, a lot of people are going to commend him for that, but how do you spin this to the players as him not just being a quitter?
It's not a spin. What it is a man who's self-aware, who wants to do the right thing for the student athlete, and he felt convicted that this was the right decision.
Scott, just knowing your history with Gary, obviously working side by side with him in the past, I mean, how difficult, gut-wrenching is it for you to have those conversations, and when it comes to that's it?
Hard.
Corey, when you talked to the team, what was your message to them right away? And do you anticipate you're going to have to be talking about this all week with them?
Not at all. Again, I embrace those players. I have a great relationship with the majority of those players, and it was more of a we're in this together type conversation, and it's the truth. Coach A, he meant a lot to me. You know, Coach Andersen gave me my first job, my first opportunity, you know, in this industry, and so we're a family. And it was just about being a tight fist and carrying out what he would have wanted for this team. So that was the initial conversation.
Scott, you just mentioned it's obviously very difficult for you. You're very close with Gary. Did you ever try to maybe, I don't want to say, maybe talk him out of it to a certain degree? What were those kinds of conversations like?
Certainly, again, in the conversations that we had that all evolved, we talked about every side of this.
Scott, I know you have a season to play, but what are you going to be looking for in your next head coach?
So Danny, start with the fundamentals, right? We want an absolute high-integrity individual, somebody with incredible energy and intellect and passion for what we're doing, baseline. We look for that in any position. I will not be confined to geography or a sitting head coach compared to coordinator. We'll continue to move that forward, and obviously now isn't the time to start talking about all the specifics, but certainly this will be a national search. It'll be wide open, and we will find that right person.
Scott, can you just talk about what you saw in Coach Hall and the decision of making Coach Hall the interim coach?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, and I think you see it today, Coach Hall is connected to these student athletes. There's a belief and a trust, and more than anything, we need that moving forward in these 6 games, is that belief and that trust, an opportunity, the leadership capacity that Corey has to bring this group together and finish strong.
Scott, was this wins and losses driven, and how tough was it to watch what had happened this season compared to the way that it ended last year?
Certainly, we took a step back, and it's obvious to see that we had. The ultimate decision had many factors in it. It wasn't just wins and losses. And again, that decision, let me reiterate, was mutual.
Corey, how will you approach practice tonight with the players to get them focused?
I'm going to let them. I'm going to introduce them to head coach Hall, you know, interim head coach Hall. I mean, a lot of them see me as mentor, which, I mean, that's what a head coach is. That's what any coach is. But, you know, it's going to be business as usual. And, I mean, again, we have our eye on the prize.